What's up, everybody? Back again with another one of my tier ranking videos. This one you could have voted on in the community tab of my face or my YouTube channel or whatever. The Red Hot Chili Peppers have had a very long career. Their first album came out in 1984. Good chunk of their material was in the 80s. They could very well arguably be considered an 80s band had they not had such massive success in the 90s and beyond, which is crazy to think about. You know, there's a few bands like that, like Nine Inch Nails, Smashing Pumpkins. Their first albums came out in the 80s, but you would never think about them as an 80s band. But the Chili Peppers have a significant amount of material just in general, so I'm going to try to go as fast as I can here. Really, their first, three albums, that I can tell you right now off the bat, they just weren't very good in my opinion. Early Chili Peppers was very derivative of the time of hip-hop just coming out and moving to the forefront. So, you know, Anthony Kiedis' rapping, even though it got bad, it's weird. It was like a bell curve. Like, it started out really bad, and then it got, somewhat tolerable, and then it got bad again towards the end of their career, or their latter part of their career. So the first album that we have is self-titled Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's going to go... I'm going to put that in the D tier. I don't know. I would almost put it in the F tier for this band. Yeah. Well, I like True Men Don't Kill Coyotes, and that's the opening track on the album. That song kind of has sentimental value. They had this Red Hot Chili Pepper marathon on MTV back in the day, and that was one of the songs that I listened to, and I think it was decent, especially for 1984. That was kind of a new sound. So yeah, during this period of the Chili Peppers career, they were doing that whole Spinal Tap thing, where in the movie Spinal Tap they kept having to get a new drummer because their old drummers just kept dying or exploding or something. And the light sensitivity is already fucking up my nose, so that's gonna be fun. These were during the years where it was Hillel Slovak the guitar player, was Jack Sherman the guitar player, was Jack Irons the guitar player, then you have this Cliff Martinez guy, which was the original drummer, and so literally the beginning of the Chili Peppers until this very day, it's like the Lars Ulrich, James Hetfield thing, but with Flea and Anthony Kiedis. Those have always been the two original members from the very get-go. The first three Chili Peppers records, aside from a few songs, just are not very good at all. They put out an album compilation back in the day called What Hits, and it was basically taking all the best songs off of those first three albums and making one single album. And I think that was probably the right strategy, because man, there's some real stinkers on these albums. The song Mommy Where's Daddy off their first album, it's probably one of the worst songs I've heard, just period. Mommy, where's Daddy? Mommy, where's Daddy? Right here. Throughout the whole... Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. Clearly, Kiedis is ripping off Grandmaster Flash or Run DMC or even earlier Sugar Hill Gang with his rap flow, and it's just really bad. It, like I said, it did not age well. Moving on, we have Freaky Styley, which shit. I guess I'll put it in the C category. Let's see what songs are on there again. Okay, no, this isn't. I thought this was Mofo Uplift. No, that's going in the D category as well. That album sucked. I had to listen, dude. I know the golden years of Chili Peppers, the time that most people remember them, but this early 80s shit, I had to listen to it today, and it was punishing. It was very punishing, and you're welcome, people out there who wanted me to do this, because it sucked. I did not enjoy it. So up next we have the Uplift Mofo Party Plan, which I put into the C category. You got Fight Like a Brave, Me and My Friends, Backwoods, Behind the Sun. I genuinely really like that song a lot. Got still doing kind of the cheesy 80s rap funk style thing, but they just kind of refined it more. Got a little bit more melodic sensibilities in its songs, like Fight Like a Brave, which actually has a chorus that you can sing along to. Behind the Sun, they're starting to get a little bit more psychedelic, but still in the very Chili Pepper way of slap bass and the verses, very funky. We got psychedelic. So it was a middling album for them, in my opinion. So that goes into a C tier. Then founding member Hillel Slovak dies of heroin overdose in L.A. After they got off of tour. And now, all of them did drugs, especially Anthony Kiedis, but apparently Hillel just did it to the hilt and did not survive. So they, for their next album, needed a new guitar player, and then the drummer, I believe, quit, and so now they needed a new drummer as well. So now we get proper Chili Peppers, where it's like, okay, this is like the classic lineup of Chad Smith, John Frusciante, Flea, and Anthony Kiedis, and they come out with Mother's Milk. Honestly, I feel like that is an A tier album, bordering on S tier. I think Mother's Milk is probably, if it's one of my favorite Chili Peppers records. It's definitely more rock centric and less funk centric. They got away from that quite a bit by the time this album came out. Songs like Good Time Boys. Then, of course, the Stevie Wonder cover of Higher Ground, which was like a big hit for them at the time. And that bass line, man, at the beginning, it was like pretty badass. You can ask me to make that noise again later on, and I will. Nobody Weird Like Me, Knock Me Down, which is one of my favorite old school Chili Pepper songs of all time. Just like some really cool funk rock stuff. Pretty Little Ditty is on this record. Now, interesting thing about that song is it's an instrumental, but in the middle of that instrumental, all of a sudden you get the main hook to the song Butterfly by Crazy Town. And I when I heard that like when I was a teenager, when I was listening to this album, it kind of blew my fucking mind. My brother had bought that stupid Crazy Town album, so I just had to know. So I went through the credits and the little liner notes, and it did credit that Butterfly, the riff and all that, to Red Hot Chili Peppers. So Red Hot Chili Peppers made some royalties off of Crazy Town, and that was off of this album. Yeah, no, this album, Johnny Kick a Hole in the Sky, punk rock classic. Like they're just a solid group of songs on this record, and definitely A tier Chili Peppers in my opinion. The new bandmates, I think, just really lit a fire under their ass, and they got rid of that corny 80s funk rap. Well, they never abandoned the funk. They just got rid of the cheesy rapping. They kept the rapping, but it got less cheesy, and there was not much of that on this album. And then we get 1991's big breakout classic, the album that everyone loves. You've seen the posters, you've seen the t-shirts, you've maybe even seen the tattoos. Yeah, Blood Sugar Sex Magik, that is going to be in the B tier for me. I know, wow, what the hell? What is he thinking? How could you put that album, that classic Chili Peppers album, how could you put that in a B tier? How is that not S tier? Because honestly, I never really cared for this record that much. I think it's bloated. I think that there's too many songs on this record. It's 17 fucking songs. Like, you could have easily cut down some of it. The funk has returned and the rock has been dialed back. They just were, it's like they were really trying to get that George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic vibe. And it's just not a sound I'm very into. So with that being said, I will say there's some definite classics on this record, like Breaking the Girl is a very underrated Chili Pepper song. Like, their ability to go into these like psychedelic moments kind of blows my mind that they don't like lean into that more often, because it seems like anytime they do go into that direction, they create something cool. Like Breaking the Girl is a really like jammy psychedelic song with some great vocals. Of course, Give It Away. I love that. It's a quirky little song, that song. Like, if you listen to the bass line, it locks right in with the drum pattern. And then if you listen to what John Frusciante's doing, like, if you're wearing headphones, it's like during the verses, he's just like, bam, bam, gang, 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 gang. He's just, like, kind of plucking away at the guitar, doing, like, not really playing, like, power chords or anything like that. He's just kind of like doing these little like melody lines, and then there's the reverse guitar solo, which is really cool. And the accompanying music video for it, directed by, I want to say, Anton Corbijn, was very cool. Just, I think this album did good on the radio power of this song and the next song, which is one of the most over fucking rated songs of all time, Under the Bridge. Oh god, I host karaoke and the amount of people who sing this fucking song and it sucks, and the song, even when I was younger, didn't have much appeal to me. I was like, is this a ballad? Like, I mean, it's about Anthony Kiedis' heroin addiction at the time, and I appreciate how open and honest he was about it, and it was literally like a page from his journal that Rick Rubin and the band happened to, stumble upon and be like, hey, we need to make this into a song, like rework it into like more of a song format, and so he did, and became one of their biggest songs. It's never done that much for me, but it has for a billion other people apparently on Spotify, because that's the plays that's sitting at right now is over 1 billion plays. And then the self-titled track Blood Sugar Sex Magik is, I think, a pretty good song as well. But as far as everything else on here, I could take it or leave it, but more likely I end up leaving it. So up next we have a very weird, just growing painy kind of album, One Hot Minute. Put that in the C tier. After the release of Blood Sugar Sex Magik and after the subsequent touring and them blowing up from that album bigger than they already were, guitarist John Frusciante decided to quit the band because all the fame was getting to him, and it didn't really like rub him the right way. Plus, he was just, everyone in that band loves heroin apparently, because he had a really bad heroin problem, and he basically became a recluse after that album. So without having Frusciante on board, they got Jane's Addiction guitar player Dave Navarro to fill in on an entire ass album. He was essentially a band member. And if you're the guitar player, and especially in a band like Chili Peppers, which is a very collaborative band, you have a big job. Like, you have to write a lot, and it's kind of got to fit like what they're doing. And Dave Navarro wasn't into funk. He was into classic guitarists like Hendrix and Clapton and guys like that. So when he got with the Chili Peppers, he faked the funk, essentially. He did fake the funk. And he even said as much, that funk was not one of his influences. For whatever reason, I just am fascinated by this album, though, and I have probably overly explored it more than I have any of their other albums. And I don't know what it is about it, but it's like in the middle of the 90s, they have Dave Navarro, a well-known guitar player in the band. It's like, it's got this album covers always interested me because it looks very un-Chili Peppers-like, and yeah, I mean, there are some good songs on this record, but again, it just feels like so wrong. It just feels wrong, this album. Warped is a pretty good song. Aeroplane is meh. He's my aeroplane. It's okay. My Friends is a good song. Coffee Shop I really like. It's got this weird kind of guitar and melody thing going on. And then you got P, which is just literally Flea on the bass. Is I'm a little P. I love the sky. And he's just singing by himself with just bass, and that's it. And I don't know if it's like a pacifist anthem. Just check it out, it's weird. Then Frusciante rejoined the band, and in 1999 they dropped their masterpiece, Californication. Screw you if you don't agree with me, it's true, it's their best album. It's their best album they ever put out and ever will put out. Because I just had to listen to a lot of their new stuff today too, and I just don't see them ever returning back to their former glory in those regards. But yeah, no, Californication, I was at like the perfect age when that album came out. I was like 12 years old, and the songs and the music videos, and it just they just seemed cool. They seemed like a cool band with an interesting sound. The song, I mean, like they just completely did a 180 in their sound. There is some funk in here, but it's not like the turbocharged, like Ritalin fueled funk of the 80s. But it's not the very high glossy funk of the Rick Rubin production. Blood Sugar. It's just got its own sound, you know. Californication is not a funky song at all. It's just a good alternative rock song. They have some great alternative, straight up alternative rock songs on here that show that they can do alt rock, and they're not just stuck in this ridiculous, you know, funk bubble with Anthony Kiedis saying nonsensical lyrics. You have beautiful songs like Other Side and Scar Tissue. Parallel Universe is just a great alternative rock song. The album opens up with Around the World, which is an amazing album opener. Very frenetic instrumentation going on. I would say Anthony Kiedis' stupid lyrics are the only thing that kind of like don't really make sense, especially his whole gong gang 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 gong gong gang gang, which he had done before in the song Soul to Squeeze, where he just starts going, you know, scatting and ski bopping all over the place. Yeah, easily Porcelain. I mean, just really good just a great alternative rock album. Not a lot of the funk, you know, that you're used to. Not really much rapping, a lot more singing, but you know, like just picking the right melodies, picking the right choices, doing the right stuff. And it's not a super long album. It's just the right amount, and that was their peak, in my opinion. They peaked there at that point. All right, up next is kind of a bump in the road, in my opinion. It marks kind of a change for the Chili Peppers after Californication. I feel like at this point, the Chili Peppers got a lot more pop, if I could say. A lot more pop, a lot more kind of formulaic in their song structures. Not to say that there wasn't some good stuff on here, but I'm putting By the Way in the B category. I never really cared for that album. I didn't even buy it on CD when it came out, even though I bought some of the albums after By the Way. I just, the lead single, like, standing in line to see a show tonight and there's a light on, heavy glow. I just did not like that song at all. And so I didn't buy the CD. I have experience listening to like most of the singles off of this, and I did listen to some songs on here, and there are some that I do like Dosed and Zephyr Song. Can't Stop is so fucking overplayed. Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Oh, the bad rapping's back, baby. The nonsensical bad rapping is back. Don't know what the fuck any of it means, but he's doing it. Probably the worst song on, it's the second worst song they've ever done is Cabron. Cabron, Cabron. Yeah, it's not good. Did not care for By the Way very much. By the Way, I did not care for that album very much. So, all right, anyway. Up next, we have Stadium Arcadium, which was a nice return to, well, not return to form, but it was just like a nice, like, okay, leaning a little bit more. Well, it was a double album, so you really got everything on By the Way. In fact, I've said this time and time again, if they had slimmed this baby down to a nice 17-minute or 17-song once CD, it would be S tier. But because it's a double album, there's some songs on here that I could do without. But with that being said, yes, these songs were much poppier than the stuff that they had done in the 90s, or even Californication, which is still in the 90s. But yeah, the new millennium marked like the poppy Chili Peppers era with Frusciante still in the band. You have Danny California, which I remember like being 17 and that being on the radio all the time. That was like almost as the soundtrack to my summer of 2017, which sounds really lame. I never thought I'd say a phrase like that, but here we are. Yeah, these are all just very poppy, but you know, nice songs. But then you have Hump de Bump. Again, one of the worst. You could throw that in the pile with Mommy Where's Daddy and whatever other, Cabron, and now Hump de Bump. This song, you gotta hump de bump. There's trumpet in there too. It's just really bad. But yeah, that's disc 1. You got some really solid songs. Disc 2 had Tell Me Baby, which was a big one for them. Just a lot of these I really like, but again, you could have trimmed enough off of here to make like a really long, just one CD, and I think it would have been the better move. But I always think that with double albums. I'm never a huge double album guy. All right, up next we have John Frusciante quitting the band again. So now we are left without a guitar player, and who do we get? Some guy named Josh Klinghoffer, who was apparently had been a friend of the band for a long time, and then they released their next record. It took them about 5 years, but then they came out with 2011's "I'm With You," and I gotta say, I'm not really with this album. I'll put it in the C tier, I guess. Okay, so from this point forward, after Stadium Arcadium, every release after that album, they lowered to this like cruising altitude of mediocrity, and Anthony Kiedis' lyrics get more out there, esoteric, nonsensical. The music itself feels less guided, like it feels directionless. Just a lot of the focus had kind of gone away in general. I didn't like how one thing that I kind of failed to mention was with starting with like some parts of Blood Sugar Sex Magik, definitely Californication and Stadium Arcadium, and by the way, John Frusciante really contributed a lot vocally. Like his back vocals were really critical to a lot of those songs. Think of a song like Other Side, how critical John Frusciante's backups were, or even Can't Stop, if that's your bag. Josh Klinghoffer doesn't really do backup vocals, so you don't really have a whole lot of that on here. The songs just weren't very compelling to me. I know they had like one or two that they played on the radio, Monarchy of Roses and The Adventures of Rain Dance Maggie. Yeah, the lyrics or the titles here, it's almost like Smashing Pumpkins level autumn bad. Goodbye, Hooray. Ooh, they have a Hooray on one of their albums too. It's not as bad as Autumn's Hooray, but still, it's in there. So yeah, was not a fan of that album. I did buy the CD when it came out. I wanted to see what they sounded like with a different guitar player, because the whole time I had been alive and coherent, it had always been John Frusciante. Well, that's not true. Dave Navarro was in there. Like I said, dude, they're like the Spinal Tap, but with guitar players. Like, they can never hold on to a fucking guitar player, it seems like. So then in 2016, we get the Getaway, and other than, Dark Necessities, which is a great song, and I thought that, like, man, what a nice return to form. That's kind of like the only song on there that I fucked with, because all the other stuff was, again, cruising altitude, just a level of blandness. You know, I actually liked One Hot Minute and Uplift more than I did these two, so they're going to go in the D tier for me. So yeah, the Getaway, and what's up with that album cover with the girl and the bear and the raccoon and whatever else bird that is? Like, I don't understand. It's a stupid album cover. So they had Dark Necessities. The album opens with like this kind of with this beatbox thing, but it did not have a strong opening song. That is like one thing I don't understand, how people keep making that mistake of like having a weak album opener. It's like, why would you take that risk? You know, why would you think that, our fans are just gonna like listen to, like, we don't need to wow them anymore. They're just gonna listen to whatever shit that we put out. But yeah, just nothing. Detroit was an okay song, I guess. Anyway, so then recently, Frusciante rejoins the band. Klinghoffer's back out. And I don't think it was really his decision. I think he was fired because Frusciante showed interest of being back in the band. And some of their most successful times in their career was when Frusciante was playing guitar. So needless to say, I was pretty stoked when I heard that they were coming out with a new album called, Unlimited Love. Yeah. And even the album cover looked kind of like vintage, retro Chili Peppers with their cool little, cross thing that they got going on. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, Frusciante's back in the band. I'll give this a try. And then I listened to Black Summer, and I was like, this is okay. Why is Anthony Kiedis pronouncing words so weird now?
China's on the dark side of the moon.
yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good song, but then I listened to the rest of the album and it was just mundane, mediocre. And the names, the titles of these songs, Aquatic Mouth Dance. I know I've harped on this before, but just, man, I'm telling you, it's like autumn levels of bad song naming. But yeah, just whenever Frusciante's in the band, the Chili Peppers always, are at their creative height. So they write a lot of songs. And that's what they did with in this occasion too. That's why we get Unlimited Love, and literally I think it was like a couple months later, we get Return of the Dream Canteen. We get 2 new albums in like the span of like a couple months. They didn't release albums like that until like back in the 70s, but like that's pretty much been unheard of in the last 40 years. So yeah, they released a lot, they made a lot of songs, and they worked with Rick Rubin again, trying to recapture that magic. They wanted to release all of the songs at once, and the record company was like, we don't like that idea. So they compromised and broke it down to 2 records, and they're just both bland, dude. Bland! I want to like the shit that the band puts out. I have a really, complex, complicated relationship with this band, because, I feel like I really like them, because they do have some really great songs, but they have so much garbage. They have so much just boring slogs to listen to, where you can't believe that a band that could do this song over here was also able to do this song way down here, quality-wise. And that's kind of been my relationship with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I even put them in one of the bands I grew out of videos, but I won't say I've grown out of them. But there definitely was a time period that I tended to like. I'm almost I've stopped short at saying they're like a singles band where they have some great singles, because they do have some great non-hit some good B-sides or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, looking at this list, this is pretty much how I feel about it. Their first few records were just really products of the 80s that didn't age well. Then they had a middle period that was successful minus a hiccup of One Hot Minute. And then they had their 2000s and beyond kind of pop phase where Anthony Kiedis was doing a lot more singing and writing hooks and less rapping and kind of, I guess maturing. I don't know. Maybe he just realized that the rapping was just never good and he shouldn't have. I don't who the fuck knows. So anyway, that's my ranking. Californication is my favorite album. Mother's Milk and Stadium Arcadium are in second place. And then all the other ones, there's good songs on there here and there. And then by the time you get down to the D tier, there's one good song. So that's my ranking of Red Hot Chili Peppers. They're 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 albums. I don't know what this album down here is. If someone wants to let me know what that is, I'd appreciate it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, have a good rest of your night.